Okay then folks, here we go. We've had another pre-order parcel arrive on the doorstep here at MoDXtra Games and Collectibles Towers. It is the Marvel Legends X-Men Marvel's Chamber figure. Here he is. So this is a character from the Generation X title. I'm more or less exclusively an X-Men related Marvel Legends collector now. It's very rare that I buy anything that's not X-Men related of late. Although there is one figure I've got my eye on. I'm waiting for them to announce pre-order. I'd see if you can have a guess in the comments down below as to which figure I've got my eye on. But back on track. So yeah, here he is. He's part of the Gen X title. I used to read Generation X back in the 90s. In fact, I was feeling so nostalgic, I went and dug out my chrome... Is it chrome foil, whatever the name is, type of cover for Gen X, Generation X #1. There's Chamber, in fact, featuring quite prominently on the cover there, although he's in the kind of team uniform, whereas the figure's in the design, which is the more in-panel look of the character there. Look, so yeah, I was feeling all nostalgic and dug out some of my old titles and had a bit of a flick through from this figure arriving. It's in the standard plastic-free packaging box, which is standard for now, at least, anyway. If you've not heard the news, they're moving back to windowed packaging on a number of lines. I feel so very sorry for the inbox OCD collectors, but that's not me, because I opened them up, and we're going to get this bad boy opened up now. So we've got the digital render of Chamber on the front of the packaging there, looking like a pretty impressive figure. I was certainly attracted to this flame effect around the head. That's one of the kind of features of the character that drew me to making this pre-order, and if the look of that on the figure is as good as it looks there on that digital render, then I'll be very happy chappy. So that's the front. Then on the back, got another digital render of the figure there, showing off this flame effect around his face, the swappable hands that are included, and the big green Charlie Build-A-Figure arm, all the legal bollocks and malarkey across the bottom there. Some artwork on one of the sides depicting the Chamber character. I'm not sure what comic book precisely that's from, but I suspect it's a Generation X issue, maybe a bit later down the line. That doesn't look like the artwork in that issue 1 I was just showing off. And then the Build-A-Figure line information on the other side with the big green Charlie figure and the other characters in the wave, and which one includes which part. And it's telling us that Chamber here is number 6, which is the left arm. More legal bollocks and malarkey, more legal bollocks and malarkey, legal bollocks and malarkey everywhere. There we go. Right, so let's get this open. And I've already popped the tape on one of the sides. Which side was it? It was this side. So get my finger in there, slide that out, pull him through. He'll be in the little card frame inside. Yes, he is. There we go. Oh, so that's the big green Charlie arm. Paperwork. So this bag feels to me like it's got the Chode Build-A-Figure arm and the 2 swappable hands. I think that feels like there's 2 loose hands in there. Yes, there is. There we go. So there's the arm and the 2 swappable hands. And then Chamber is inside here. Just pop those little tabs. Pull the figure out. Where's it open? From the bottom here. There we go. And there he is. Okay. And there we go then, folks. There is Chamber and his added value, he says sarcastically, out the box, ready for some playtime. So I'm going to go away and get hands-on with the figure, do some posing, take some photos. Regulars around these parts will know the routine, and I'll be back in a couple of days with some review thoughts once I've kind of got, you know, hands-on and actually form some opinions. So stick around, because Future Chris will be back with you in 3, 2, 1. And here we go then, folks. Here is the Marvel Legends Chamber out the packet in the plastic. I've been away now for a few days, well, more than a few days, in fact, since I recorded the unboxing section that you've just watched. I've had some hands-on man-child playtime with the figure. I've been posing him up. I've been getting him on the shelf with some of my other Marvel Legends, taking some photos, all that good stuff. And now I'm back and ready to share a few review thoughts on the figure. So, if you're new around these parts, very simple structure for a MoDXtra Games and Collectibles review that I call the 3 A's. The first A is aesthetic. I'm going to talk about how the character looks. What's the visual impact? The paint applications, the textures, the details, the sculpt, all that good stuff. How does it look? Then on to the second A, which is articulation. How does the figure move? What's the posability like? What's the range of motion like? Can we do a lot with our figure. And then the third and final A is accessories and added value. What extra goodies, what extra bits and bobs have Hasbro chucked in with Chamber to make it worth our hard-earned cash? Where's the extra value there? And with all that said and done, if you've got your eye on this figure, you've been thinking about picking up one for yourself, but you've not made your mind up yet, it's my hope that by the end of this video, you've had a good, thorough review with lots of detail to help you make your mind up as to whether this is the figure for you. So let's not dilly-dally around, let's get into it, and let's now talk about Chamber's aesthetic. Well, I suppose if we're going to talk about the figure's aesthetic, then we really are going to have to spend quite a bit of time talking about the most prominent visual feature of the figure, and a prominent feature of the character, the flame energy effect around the head, and then the head sculpt there. This is all connected to his superpowers. If anyone's watching who's not familiar, Chamber, his name's Jonathan Starsmore. They often refer to him as Jono in the Gen X comic books. He has this energy blast effect that he fires from his chest, obviously. However, when he was a young teenager, first developing his mutant powers, he wasn't able to control it so well, and as a result, it consumed the lower part of his face and the top part of his chest, so it's just like this big energy void that exists around here now. And he's depicted in comic book artwork just like this all the time. So I'm very pleased, very happy to see that the Hasbro Marvel Legends design team have been able to replicate this in the 3D action figure form. And it is super visually striking, and they've done an excellent job, which they should do, which they had to do really with Chamber, because it's such a key feature of his visual identity and his mutant power identity, and it needed to be that kind of striking, you know, eye-catching. It needed to be that kind of vibrant and energetic, and to all intents and purposes, certainly in kind of this space here, I really feel like they've managed to do that. So the flame effect, we can see it's this orange plastic piece, but it's made up of several sort of shades and different colours of orange. So we've got the lighter yellowy orange at the front here that's washed over the top of the kind of core orange base colour. Goes a bit darker at the back here, but then as you go further out into these tip points, you can see it becomes more translucent, just really giving it that feel of its energy. He's giving off this uncontrollable energy, and it's sort of spiking out everywhere. So it's sculpted nicely. It's got lots of good texture and depth. Looks a little plasticky. I did say on an Instagram post when I first got the figure, it was my hope that the energy effect here looked as good as it did on the digital render of the figure, and it does, but it looks a lot plasticier, yeah, which is a shame. I'd have liked maybe something a little bit more, I don't know what the word is. I mean, I was about to say realistic, but I mean, that's not a real thing, is it? But you know what I mean. But giving them the benefit of the doubt, that's a pretty sweet sculpted piece. It's communicating that narrative, that story of this uncontrollable energy that spills out from the bottom half of his face and the top of his chest there. And the paint applications and the different plastic sculpting effects work. They're good, they're solid. He's also got a banging face sculpt. You can see all the dark energy lines emanating upwards across his face from the point of the kind of big energy void there at the base of his jaw. The facial features are extremely well sculpted. You can see that kind of that grimaced, serious grimace that the Chamber is known for from the comic books. You know, he's a serious guy because he's containing all this kind of power and energy and, you know, rage and anger at his circumstances. And you can really see that communicated in the way they've sculpted the face, which is, you know, a bit of a shocker for Marvel Legends, because I'm usually slagging them off for making everything too bland and nondescript. I like the paint applications on the eyebrows and the eyes as well. The white energy eyes, that's all working, and he's got a great hair sculpt as well. They've sculpted it with this kind of sweeping, wind-swept effect that really, again, communicates that narrative and ties into the whole sort of combined visual impact of this area here, because you're utterly convinced that all this crackling energy is just making his hair kind of blow and waft in its, I don't know, in its slipstream. Do energy effects have slipstreams? I think that's the word I was looking for, but if not, let me know in the comments down below a better word to describe that. So yeah, I'm really buzzing and really into the the above the shoulders head sculpt section there. I think that's really great and very happy with that element of the figure. Moving down into the torso, you can see lots of nice texture and depth to the sculpt of the figure. The leather jacket looks suitably leathery. It's got all the fine detail paint applications there applied to it, like the studs and the zips and things, which are really well applied on this figure, actually. Again, I don't mean to sound quite so surprised, but my experience with fine detail paint applications like that on Marvel Legends figures is not always so positive, but it's there. We've got the little dangly bits of the strap there at the bottom of the jacket as well, just again giving it some dimensions and some sort of fluid feel motion as they kind of dangle sort of naturally. And then we've got the kind of wrap piece that he uses to cover up his exploded chest here. It's got this sort of texture within it, which looks nice, feels nice, again ties into the narrative of the character, and is really nicely sculpted, really nicely done. Lots of folds and creases and flowing drape effects there in the jacket and all the way through down into the trousers as well. Very appreciative of that. These, I'm quite confident, are reuse. I've seen these legs before. I think these are sort of the standard, because they're the pinned ones. They're the standard sort of smart pants design that we've seen on the suited characters and whatnot in the past. I'm not the biggest fan of these because I don't like the feet, but I'll talk about that when I come to articulation, because that's the main issue. But they're okay. They look a bit shiny. The trousers would have been better maybe with a more sort of faded denim-y effect or something perhaps, but like I say, they've reused the kind of more shiny suit pant type thing. I'm trying to remember from the comic book, I had the issue 1 out. Maybe it wasn't jeans, perhaps my memory's failing me there, but the actual sculpt is good. It's just the plastic's a bit shiny, and I'm just a bit bored and fed up of these because I don't like something that they do in the way the character stands. And then he's got his nice smart shoes, lovely little brogue there with the sculpted brogue details on them, so that's all nice. So the sculpt and the look is fine. The colours as well add to the visual element of the figure, because that red energy effect has a lovely contrast with the all black kind of emo outfit that Chamber wears, which again is not actually really a tick for Hasbro, because they're just replicating the comic book image that was so well realized by the creators and artists who drew Chamber through the years. But in action figure form, in 3D form, they've really kind of made that flame effect bit work nicely with the all black outfit. And while I talk a lot about colours framing and balancing figures, in this instance that upward contrast, that focus up here, is very much what the character is all about. I mean, there's not a great deal else to say about aesthetic. It's all about what's going on up here, and I really like what's going on up there, and I find it a really good sculpt here. The body's all right. I think the leather jacket is doing its job. It's the trousers, it's the legs that I have an issue with, but I'm associating them with another issue I'm about to talk about when I come to articulation. So, as far as aesthetic goes, if you're a Chamber fan, you're getting a pretty classic look, solid Chamber figure, and I can't criticise that a great deal. The textures are really great. I wish we had more figures with this kind of texture and attention to detail. The energy effect looks brilliant. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the aesthetic elements of this figure, so that first day is going to be a thumbs up as far as Chamber's concerned. All right, well, let's now talk about articulation, get into the second day. So, talking articulation then, and starting above the shoulders, as I'm sure you could probably gather and imagine, the head movement is somewhat restricted by the energy effects that's going on here. So, you can look up a little bit, you really can't look down a great deal. You can move side to side about that far and about that far. I think there's a little bit of tilt in there as well. So, it's there, but it's limited. They've obviously use the same ball and hinge engineering that they use for head articulation, but because of the head sculpt, it's somewhat restricted. That has got in the way of some of the poses that I was trying to do with him, but equally, how else were they going to do that? I can forgive that element, that is what it is. Moving down then into the arms, we've got the standard swivel and hinge here in the arms, so he can get himself up into sort of a bit of a T position. Actually, that side's a bit stiff. Get into a T position. You can swivel them all the way around if you so desire. We've then got a swivel there at the top of the bicep and tricep. Nice pinless double elbow that gets up to there. And then standard hands with the pin joint, with the swivel in the wrist, and then both hands have got a forward and back hinge there. in this wrist point. Torso's got the ab crunch and the waist swivel there. You can get him forward quite a bit. You can get him back quite a bit. That's nice. And then some good swivel. Helps out a little bit with some of your poses with the limitations of the head, but not all of them. I am now realizing far too late into this review that I should have used my white background for this black figure. Just as I moved him up there and I had the trousers on the black, I was like, oh god, can people even see that? So apologies folks, bit of a boo-boo on my part there. But anyway, about the legs, so we've got the hinge in the groin area there, comes forward, goes back out. We can do the oh, he's a bit tight there actually, but we've got a bit of ballerina, but not a great deal. Swivel at the top of the thigh, pin double knee that gets you up to there, and then we've got the hinge and rocker in the feet that'll let you hypothetically hinge it forward and back and rock on the spot. But I mean, they've been doing this weird fancy shoe sculpt thing for a while now, and I really don't like it. I find the hinge super, that design with that little flap across the bottom there, super resistant. You can't get it far forward enough sometimes, and the rocker helps a bit, but it really affects his ability to independently stand. You're very limited in terms of what these kind of suited and booted folks are able to do. It almost makes all this other articulation up here in the thigh and the knee negligible and pointless and a bit redundant because you can't even get him to stand properly on his feet. I've never liked these. I will continue to dislike them. What else was it? What else did I have these on them? Oh, I know what it was. It was my, what's his name? Jebediah Stone. But I sold that one on. So yeah, I've got the articulation is there. It's present in the feet, but it doesn't serve its function very well, and I find it affects my ability to pose the figure. And so I tend to find these smart shoe figures with these, these fancy slacks and pointy brogues and what have you. That's about it. You kind of get them in this sort of slightly spread eagle position where you manage to angle the shoes just right, and the furthest point the hinge will take you. There you go. You're done. Yeah, it's very difficult to find poses where you're sort of integrating the rest of the leg articulation to do something interesting with him. See what I mean? So the articulation then, it's middlish, high middle, but it's okay, it's solid, it's all right. I've managed to do some things with the photos I was taking. I took some reasonably interesting pictures the other day and it looked all right. I tend to find myself always sort of reverting back to this hands in the air, oh no, my energy face is taking over kind of thing going on, because I feel restricted by the capability of the feet, the independent standing ability of the feet that the articulation in those stupid shoes give us. So yeah, I just it is limited because it's largely reuse pieces that are older articulation pieces. You know what I mean? It's not keeping pace with some of the newer approaches to articulation, like no butterfly joint in there, and they've not improved these yet. These stupid smart pants. I mean, I suppose at least he's ironed his crease in nicely. Well done, Jono. Yeah, so there you go. Articulation. It's all right. It's all right. Not as bad as I expected, but not as good as I would have liked. Okay, on to added value and accessories now. And it's a pretty short segment in this section because aside from the Build-A-Figure piece, Chamber just comes with some swappable hands, a couple of fists for each arm. And this is the standard Marvel Legends approach. You've got the peg hole in the wrist and you just push the thing in. Although it's quite... Ta-da! The fists are all right. They certainly add an extra dimension to some of the poses that you might want to put him into. It's just an extremely limited selection of extras that you get with Chamber. Not that I can think of much else that you would include with him. There's not anything like a piece of weaponry or anything else that's largely synonymous, but in terms of this third A being about accessories and added value, yeah, it's a bit negligible, really. So as far as accessories and added value goes, it's going to have to be a thumbs down, I think, for Chamber, I'm afraid. Swappable hands are nice and all, but just two closed fists, one for each arm, is not really good enough. They could have at least looked at a more expansive range of hand gestures to include and thrown another pair in at minimum, but they haven't. And for someone like me who's not a Build-A-Figure guy and is not planning on collecting the full wave to build the figure, then yeah, I'm not sure. It's a thumbs down definitely as far as accessories and added value goes. It's just really minimal. Standard for Marvel Legends, sadly. Figure comparison time now, folks, and here is Chamber with the new astonishing X-Men version of Emma Frost, the White Queen from the same wave. Chamber there reunited with his old head mistress of the Gen X school. Obviously, aesthetically, there's a bit of difference there. It's the only Emma Frost figure that I own, so I kind of made it work. It kind of, if nothing else, it illustrates what I was saying about Emma Frost's sort of aesthetic differences in her review, which you can find on this channel. Go check it out, but finish this one first. So they're both also creating me a great deal of lighting trouble because I've turned the lights down so that Emma Frost isn't shining too white, and now Chamber looks really dark and dingy. Yeah, not sure what to do about that, but there you go. There's Emma Frost and Chamber. Here's Chamber with his fellow Gen X classmate Jubilee. This is the VHS animated series version. With Monet being in this wave, actually, I'm quite hopeful that there is a Gen X uniform version of Jubilee on the way, along with a green uniform Banshee, please, Hasbro. And for a final comparison, just got a more kind of bulkier, muscular, beefy fella here with the retro card-backed Gambit figure, which I have had Chamber displayed with on my shelf over this last few days, and yeah, they're not a bad little team-up. I mean, I don't recall them actually ever teaming up in the comics, but I had Gambit out. I had him out. He was on the shelf. This is really lazy. It's not a thoughtful comparison. It just happens to be a figure I had lying around. Well then, folks, here's Chamber going around on the turntable. He's sort of in the pose I've settled on. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to be tinkering a lot with this one. The stupid shoes. I can't say this enough in this video. Stupid shoes. I hate these shoes on Marvel Legends figures. They really limit the range of sort of fluid, dynamic posing options with figures that wear them. And so I'm trying to do something up here, but I can't get it replicated down there. And I don't know, it looks a bit uncomfortable and uncanny, doesn't it? I'll keep tinkering on that. But I suppose that leads me neatly into my final point, because if you're not a dyed-in-the-cloth, hardcore 90s X-Men guy like me, who's picking up figures for the nostalgia, you know, I read the Generation X comics in the 90s, alongside all the other X-Men comics I was reading. I was reading all the Jim Lee stuff, and you know, I just really loved 90s X-Men. I was proper hardcore into it, and so this character is hugely nostalgic for me. And I like the head sculpt, I like the energy effect, there's that visually striking element. So he works, he fits into kind of my display theme and what I want. But if you're not, then he's obscure, he's random, and he's very limited. He's very limited. The articulation, there's still just kind of this old school articulation getting ploughed out on these figures, and Hasbro are urgently in need of an update to what they're doing engineering-wise with these kind of smart pant, shiny shoe legs, because I find them wildly frustrating and wildly limiting. Other than that, I suppose I'd recommend it if you were just looking for something very visually striking. I think the head sculpt and that energy effect around the jaw and the chest are, well, they're eye-catching. There's no two ways about it. He does stand out. And on top of that all-black outfit, it's just really something. Like, there's a certain element of personality to that, isn't there, that really sort of stands out about Chamber. So if you fit in one of those two camps, then yeah, I'd probably recommend it, especially if you can get it for a little cheaper, or you can hang on a little while and see if it turns up in some of the sort of discount sales in 6 months from now. But if you're not, then I'd probably say no. I mean, as far as my 3A's review goes, he's one thumbs up on aesthetic because of all this, but then he's half a thumbs up for articulation, and he's a full thumbs down for added value. So yeah, that's like right at dead center, isn't it? 1.5 out of 3. So yeah, I don't know. But in any case, it's my hope that those thoughts and the overview of the figure I have provided today will help those of you out there who are on the fence and thinking about maybe picking one up. I haven't made your mind up yet. Hopefully I've helped you fall on one side of the fence or the other. Before I wrap up, once again, just wanted to say a huge thank you, massive thank you to everyone who's subscribed to the channel of late. I never imagined in a million years, I say this all the time, I'm just bowled over, never imagined in a million years that right now I'm creeping up, you know, slowly towards 700 subscribers. It's mind-boggling to me that there's that many people out there who might be interested in hearing my thoughts and seeing what I do with action figures. So a huge thank you, guys. The support really means an enormous amount to me, and it's just, I'm not going to lie, it's real fulfilling. It's real fulfilling. I get to have fun with my hobby and get that kind of validation there too. It warms my heart, and I'm very, 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 very grateful for the support and for the subs and the likes and all that. So cheers, folks, and those of you who comment as well. Just keep it up. So if you're not already subscribed, though, make sure you do hit the subscribe button. If you have enjoyed my review today, hit the thumbs up. Got to do the standard YouTube line, haven't you? I've been Chris. This is MoDXtra Games and Collectibles, and I hope I'll see you around these parts again sometime soon for another video review. All right, well, have a great day, and I'll see you later, folks. Bye-bye.